Are you looking to learn more about investing in the central Indiana real estate market? You've come to the right place. Welcome to the Indy Real Estate Investing Podcast with T&H Realty, where we discuss all things related to investing in the central Indiana real estate market. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Indy Real Estate Investing Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Tallman with T&H Realty. We are a residential property management company that services the central Indiana market. Today's guest is Evan Manship. Evan, along with his brother Clay, own Midwest Cash Offer here in Indianapolis. And you know, Evan, you two have quite a name in the out-of-state investing community. You're regular contributors to an Indianapolis out-of-state investing Facebook group. You guys have an annual conference that I want to dig into a little bit now. And so I guess I'll go ahead and make the proclamation. I consider you guys like the Indianapolis's version of the real estate rock stars. Welcome to the show, Evan.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me. And T&H is obviously, you guys are right down the road, been good neighbors, good stewards of our time, and awesome resource. So thanks for the invite.
Sure. So I know Clay was supposed to be here. You have like I mentioned earlier, a twin brother that you do business with. He couldn't be here, but that's okay. You guys are identical, right?
As identical as it gets. And for those that don't know, Clay and I, identical might be an understatement. We share an office together, own our company together, and the same school, studied the same thing, both real estate guys, both married blonde nurses. It just goes on and on and on. So yes, identical, to be very polite and succinct about it. Yeah.
So who's older?
Clay is older, and he likes to rub my nose in that a little bit. But I figured I get the looks and the smarts, so he can have his age all he wants.
Right. Yeah.
So he sends his regrets that he couldn't be here, but duty calls.
Yeah. So I guess we can say you're the younger, better-looking brother, right?
Yeah, and I'm the loudmouth of the two of us, so maybe I'm better fitted for a podcast anyway.
Right. Well, thanks again for being here. You know, I'm anxious to get into your background and learn a little more about you and your brother. But before we do that, I wanted to jump in and get your opinion on a couple of different articles. We like to jump into some numbers here and go over kind of what's happening in the central Indiana market when we release these things. And There's a couple of things. One was a Bigger Pockets article that listed Indianapolis in their top 10 of cash flowing markets. This isn't new. I mean, we've been in there, I guess, for years and years. We're number 8 now. Just a quick rundown. Detroit is like an anomaly on this list. Their rent to price ratio is more than double the next market. But Detroit's number 1, then Shreveport, Louisiana, Cleveland, Orland Park, Illinois, Macon, Georgia, Akron, Ohio, Memphis, Tennessee, then Indianapolis, and we're followed by Philadelphia and Milwaukee. So any thoughts on this that you want to get into, Evan? I mean, I don't know if it's news to you or you find any value in this, but I just thought I'd review it because it's something that, Indianapolis made some news here.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I can just give over my candid thoughts on some of this stuff. And again, I've not read the article, so I don't know how the calculations are made, what level of subjectivity is into it. But subjectivity is the name of the game. And I tell all our investors the same thing. I mean, if you can find value in something that isn't objective, I mean, anyone can look at price and look at rents and say, okay, here's the rent to price ratio. But really, subjectivity is where you make all the money. And where I believe, again, just hearing some of that list, a lot of those lists are what I call old river towns, old river cities, industrial revolution type deals. And Indy seems to be the anomaly on that list, at least, again, from what I remember of that list. So I like newer infrastructure. I like newer construction. I think everyone does. God bless Shreveport and Cleveland and Detroit, but old ass towns. And there's a reason that they're old. There's a reason that inventory exists there, which is a reason why prices are low and the reason why they're on this list. So I don't need to talk people through supply and demand, but that's my suspicion as to why that's on the list. As opposed to maybe a market I like Topeka, Kansas a lot. And that's something not a lot of people talk about. Topeka, similar situation, the different side of the coin. Just people aren't talking about it much. And it's a newer thing, comparatively speaking to its neighbor, Kansas City and whatever else. So I can go on and on about that. But in my opinion, the reason people like Indianapolis is it's newer. It's essentially a goat pasture between a bunch of old river cities that turned into a capital city and said, hey, this is now newer than everything else. So I went to school in Cincinnati. It's interesting to see these signs of, Cincinnati incorporated 1782. 50 years before Indiana was a state. And it just goes to show, kind of how different for how close these things are, how different they can be. So my candid thoughts on that list are congratulations. If you like exclusively talking rent to price ratios on different cities, I'd throw Louisville, Kentucky in the mix as well. We do some work in Louisville. You're going to see these massive through the roof, price to rent ratios that exist there. But for the same reasons I just discussed, there's a massive amount of inventory, old infrastructure, prices are cheap.
Right.
So use caution when just using that metric alone.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think, people flooded our market years ago and they're still coming to our market for cash flow. And,
Yep.
We still offer it. It's harder, but it's still there. But okay, let's move on to some MIBOR statistics. I shot you a screenshot of this last night, but, we're seeing some changes in the last 2 or 3 months. I look at these every month. And so year over year, we're still doing well. I mean, if you look at our median sales price, it's up 12.6% from August of 2021 to August 2022. That's the good news. The bad news is that we're dropping the last 3 months. So from July to August, we were down 3.1%. We'd hit 300,000 in central Indiana. That's the 16 counties that MIBOR kind of represents. We'd hit 300,000 as our median sale price a couple of months ago, and now we're below that. But, other signs, closed sales are down from this time last year. New listings are down. Days on market are up a little bit. I mean, it's still relative. It's 10. It's 10. That's a crazy number. 10
It's down to 10.
Yeah. But just, I guess, kind of give me your overall thoughts on these numbers and just the market in general.
Yeah, I get this question every day, as do your team.
Yeah.
Where are we headed? What do you think? And frankly, it's something that we're excited to hear your guys' thoughts. Obviously, just have a better pulse on it than we do, especially the MIBOR side of it, the listing side of it. We've seen a little bit of, I don't want to say a fall off, but certainly maybe people kicking their feet up a little bit, be a little bit more relaxed about making offers, implementing, do or die strategies. Let's close sight unseen next couple days type deal. I'm a greasy wholesaler at the end of the day, so I still see a lot of this cutthroat stuff by nature of what we find. But people will be a little more conservative, hold their cards a little bit closer to the chest and what their expectations are. And I'm an unbridled red state capitalist, so I don't want to get too wildly political here, but it's people stop printing money and the interest rates go up, and here we are. So it's exclusively the fault of the United States government or the Federal Reserve or whatever. But when interest rates go up, obviously prices go down. I think, we're starting to trail some of the coastal markets that have already seen a little bit more of a fall off than we see here in the Midwest. So a lot of the reason, to your point, Jeremy, about people coming here for cash flow, and it still exists, is people like Indy because you and I know better than anybody. It's steady Eddie, it's vanilla, it's boring, right? It's a cornfield. It's now a capital city. You don't get that in Vegas, Phoenix, LA, Miami, Boston, whatever, right? You're more volatile in coastal markets because prices are through the moon. So while we've seen a little bit of a normal atmosphere instead of a psychopathic, let's buy everything appetite like we have over the last 12 months, still good business on our end. We're not seeing any slowdown of true traffic, just maybe the attitudes from how long it takes to close, how long it takes to offer, that type of thing.
Right. Yeah, I think that's well put. I think you got some good points in there. I've talked to some investors that are like just chomping at the bit now. They're like, this is the time I can buy because they couldn't buy before.
Right.
And maybe they're coming in with cash. Maybe they're coming in with better interest rates than, Joe investor off the street can get. But it's a buying opportunity now. Our brokerage is getting some stuff bought. And so, yeah, we're seeing it's an interesting market. I mean, it's not, like you said, we have a lot of people that are, like you mentioned, putting their feet up and not sure what to do, just kind of waiting and seeing. But I think there's a lot of opportunity out there now, and the numbers are showing it. I mean, homes are sitting a little longer. And so I think if you're a buyer and you want to buy long term, interest rates are still really low. I mean, let's just face it. There are a lot, I don't know how long you've been in this game. We'll get into that later, but I've talked about this a lot. When we first started, 8% was a good rate to buy a home, and I've had guys on here that 16% was a good rate when they first started buying. So relatively speaking, it's still a really good, affordable market in my perspective. But okay, let's move on. I want to get into your story a little bit. So tell me more about Midwest Cash Offer. If I'm an investor, Evan, what do you offer me as an investor here in Central Indiana?
Well, where to start? You're asking these big, robust questions. I feel like I'm only answering part of them. Yeah, so Clay and I own Midwest Cash Offer. That's the marketing engine for identifying properties. any jerk can be a wholesaler. You know, if you've seen Ratatouille, it's a Disney movie.
Oh yeah.
Anyone can cook is how that goes. If anyone has kids, you know exactly what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. Anyone can cook. Anyone can be a wholesaler. Literally, any jerk with an internet connection and a laptop anymore can wholesale properties. It is not hard. I mean that very in its most literal sense. It is not difficult to do. It's extremely difficult to do well, much like being a good real estate broker. So we started Midwest Cash Offer in 2014 to essentially be a deal procurement piece of Mainstay Property Group, which is our parent entity. Mainstay was our holding company. It's who we built we used to flip a lot of houses. We built some new construction stuff. We used to broker some hard money, and all the real estate jargon. Mainstay did it, and Midwest Cash Offer was the marketing engine to find more properties to push to Mainstay to figure out what to do with them. So we started Midwest Cash Offer exclusively to find inventory. That's it, and that's what it continues to do today. We've got 18 folks on staff, a handful of sales guys, and all they do all day long is identify inventory, identify properties, projects for you, the investor, whether it's a buy and hold, flip, vacant lot, you name it. Indianapolis, Louisville, Cincinnati, and Lexington, Kentucky. So we do a lot volume-wise. We'll do 300 or 400 deals a year that we buy for A, we sell for A plus B. So I joke to everyone, if you come across my group, we get the chance to talk or earn your business. My group is a glorified pawn shop. We buy for A, we sell for A plus B, exactly as is. So if you're ever in the market for the gold chain of real estate or a used car stereo system of real estate, we'd love the chance to talk with you.
Right. Interesting. So yeah, I mean, so you guys procure properties. You obviously have it in a list, which we're going to get into a little bit later, and you send these properties out and you try to be the middleman to get these deals done, basically, right?
Yeah, that's right. And we've maybe I should slow it down a little bit. Wholesale, the term of what my group does is wholesale real estate. You know, it's much like, you know, the investor. I try and dumb everything down to caveman language. Investor want deal, and I talk about it just like a gallon of milk, right? If Evan want milk, Evan go to Meyer and buy milk. Oftentimes investors can't find the deals that they want to make it sense for their portfolio on the market. You know, they have to compete against hedge funds, they have to compete against mom and pop home buyers who don't care about the numbers of everything. So they have to find other ways to do it. So in lieu of going directly to Meyer to buy my milk, I'm offering a way to go get milk directly from the farmer down the road that has a cow and a pasteurizing machine. So I offer a way to kind of go around Meyer and identify some new value in maybe going, albeit a different way, and it may seem a little bit shady, but it's the same milk.
Right. Okay. So tell me, you know this, I think, but T&H is my name and my brother-in-law's name, Tallman and Hallberg. And we
sounds like a badass law firm now that you say it that way.
Exactly. But we coincidentally married twin sisters, Scott and I did. And, you know, so we didn't know each other. He got married before I did. And then I met my wife, and then she introduced me to her sister and then Scott. So we built a business, you know, started in 2000 and bought rentals, and it kind of ebbed and morphed into being a property manager. But I'm just interested in the challenges that you faced of building a business with your brother and your twin brother. So what are the challenges and I guess advantages to doing that?
Well, I'm glad you said advantages just the same way, because while there are challenges to anyone that starts a business, and every business partnership is going to have its yell, drag out fights, and that's exactly what we've had many times. But the advantage is he's my brother; he can't go anywhere, and the curse is if we have one of these that's going down, I still got to see him at Christmas and Thanksgiving. So you know, yeah. It's a double-edged sword, I guess, from getting started with clay. But I tell everyone the same thing. Like we bought our first property. Mainstay Property Group acquired its first property in October of 2013, 1226 Oxford Street on the Near East side of Indianapolis.
Yeah.
We spent $24,000 on that house, and we conventionally financed it. So my mortgage payment was less than my phone bill. I still have that same phone, by the way. It died last night. So I've had that same phone for they're coming on 9 years. Finally went away. Bought that. So anyway, my phone bill was $70. My mortgage payment was like $68. That's the only reason I remember how much either one of them was. But the long story short is we bought in 2013. I am a spoiled millennial real estate turd that hasn't really seen anything go kaboom yet. I was 18 when the whole financial collapse of 08, 09 happened. So I was old enough to understand, but not old enough to lose money. And so when this whole thing started to turn around and banks said, okay, and the world isn't ending, I was sitting there, first guy in line saying, I'd like a loan. And that's how we started our first acquisition, if you will. So Clay and I have kind of been spoiled from a market cycle perspective. We recognize that. But at the same time, obviously, it's been a challenge for us getting on the same page for what we wanted to do. We started buying in 2013, and we amassed maybe 80 or 90 rentals at one point, from as soon as we started Midwest Cash Offer, we were finding deals left and right. It was 2014. We couldn't raise capital fast enough. So we started to raise capital. We started to do all these other things. And, having 80, 90 properties while you're working a full-time job with a twin is tough to try and, get everything done. So that was a disaster, but we've kind of, as time kind of went on, we delineated our responsibilities where Clay was solely in charge of marketing. Clay was going to find the deals, and I was going to find what to do with them. And that was, 2015, I guess we started that delineation, and it really worked out nicely. I could figure out if we wanted to flip or hold or wholesale, and all Clay was doing was focusing on really getting our systems razor sharp on the marketing side of things. And that's really where we've found a sweet spot with you handle X, I handle Y. We stay in our swim lanes, and that's how we've structured our business.
Yeah, I think it's so important to find your lane, right? And understand your roles and understand who does what, and then trust each other to do that. That can be hard to do,
1,000,000%, especially when you have two egos in the room. And again, I'm very well aware of my deficiencies, and Clay is just the same way. So it's nice to sit there and say, wow, keeping my mouth shut is tough, especially on things I'm super passionate about. But when you're able to recognize your weaknesses and just rock them, I'm not good at this. I don't like meetings. I don't like marketing. I don't like the funnels and the systems. Flat out does not interest me. It's nice to have a built-in clone of yourself to go through and handle that stuff. And that's exactly what I've kind of lucked into. So my background is in investors and helping people and sales, and kind of the art side of all this, while Clay's the nerd that just wants to hang out and push his buttons. I don't know.
All right. So tell me, you guys grew up, you're Southsiders, you told me, right?
Center Grove, yes, sir.
Center Grove. Okay. And then you went to, if I remember right, you went to Xavier together.
Went to Xavier together, yes, sir.
Yeah. What did you guys study at Xavier?
So great question. Clay and I naturally studied the same thing. So we were finance and economics double majors at Xavier. And when asked, I used to tell girls this at parties, why finance? And it's like, well, accounting's boring. I don't want to be a bean counter my whole life. And then marketing, there's no right answers. Everything is wishy-washy, and it's tough. It's impossible to really figure out what's what. So finance is kind of a weird mix of the two. There are right ways to do things, but creative ways to get there. So understanding equity, understanding debt, knowing what the two are was cool. But real estate wasn't a thing. It's still not a thing at Xavier. We're trying to change that. But we did finance, and then we both got into real estate, finance-related gigs right after we graduated.
Gotcha. So you made a point. You said you've been spoiled because you haven't had to go through a market cycle, a down cycle. So as you look at numbers that we've had in the last few months here and interest rates doubling, has your business had to adjust at all? Have you made any pivots at this point, or are you kind of more of a wait and see?
That's an awesome question. First and foremost, I feel like every business owner is going to give a long-winded, take a sip of bourbon and answer this question. We've made pivots, not in a bad way, not in the, let's lay a bunch of people off way or anything like that, but, more or less just like our investors have. We're not inept to take hints from the market. And that's what we've seen. We've seen investors, again, for better, for worse. We saw the same thing during COVID, where people would just kind of sit back a little bit and wait on things to happen. We're not really waiting on things to happen, but we are a little bit more focused on doing things the right way, cleaning up our balance sheets, making sure that we don't have anything outstanding that's going to come back and bite us. So Clay and I are kind of, we started with Robert Kiyosaki and kind of graduated into some of these other finance minds, but we're big Dave Ramsey guys. So a nice part about my business is we don't have any debt at all on our building, on property we own, anything like that, which is kind of helpful when things start to turn a little bit. So the fact that interest rates doubled doesn't bother me. I know we left a lot of money on the table when interest rates were 2.5 points or something back a year ago. But that's just how we work. So we've made small adjustments in our marketing, pivoted out of our Lexington market just to double down on the ones that are super working for the time being. Not to say it's going to go away, but Lexington is 300,000 people and Cincinnati is 2 million. So little changes like that go a long way with just making the most of resources. So not backing away, not stepping down at all, just reallocating, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Plus, University of Kentucky's awful. I'd pivot away from Lexington too. So,
and he's not biased at all, folks. Just check the
No,
state
I'm
on
just-
his wall there.
I'm an IU guy through and through. But so, from your perspective, Evan, where are you guys seeing opportunities in Central Indiana? You can get as specific as you want. You don't have to give up any trade secrets if you don't want to. But where are you guys seeing? Look, we think there's value here, and if you buy now, you're going to be really happy later.
I wish I had one of my dispositions guys in here where personally, this is me saying this. I like single family.
Mm-hmm.
I think TikTok has ruined a lot of lives, not lives, but a lot of kind of focused a lot of people's minds to multifamily, got to buy apartments, I'll raise them, syndicate, all those other, the real estate buzzwords. But man, like at the end of the day, you have the most exits from a single family. You have a built-in end user that doesn't care about the numbers. Admittedly, Joe and John Smith are not going to care about the cash flow and the insurance and the flood and the taxes. They don't care. They're trying to live there, trying to raise a family there.
Right.
So I'll leave it at this without spoiling too much. I tell investors I focus a lot on C+ single family arenas. Things that will lease for around $1,000. I guess it's more B, so B minus neighborhoods. If it'll lease around $1,000, where you can find some arbitrage and have an end user built in that not going to care about the numbers. If and when the world goes kaboom, it'll just help you sleep better at night. So you're not going to get rich overnight. It's not going to be a syndicate thing. You're not going to pull some $200,000 developer fee or something, but you're going to be really happy with the product you own and in a neighborhood that's not going to go away.
Right.
That answer.
Yeah. If you had to invest anywhere outside of Indianapolis, let's say let's not get too far out. Let's not go down to Bloomington. Let's not go over to Muncie or anything like that. But where would you invest?
Greenfield. Love Greenfield. High rents, lower prices, and again, it's often not thought top of people's mind. For whatever reason, Hancock County kind of gets a bad rap. But for anyone that knows the loop real well, knows 465, it's 20 minutes east of 465. Right. So for you out-of-staters listening, Greenfield is its own entity, it's its own city. It's the county. I think it's the county seat of Hancock County. It's got to be. But it's a nice, cool, I call it a suburb, though I'm sure it's not technically. But it's often forgotten about because it doesn't have an Indianapolis address. It's not Carmel, it's not Indianapolis, it's not Fishers, it's not Greenwood, it's not Avon, Brownsburg, all these different places you hear about on bigger pockets. It's forgotten about because it's just far enough away to be annoying. But we have a handful of folks in my office here that live in Greenfield and swear by it, invest there personally. It's not uncommon to get a nice little ranch for $100,000 you can lease for $1,200, $1,300. And Greenfield's not going anywhere. It's a county seat. So I really like Greenfield. If someone's pointing a gun at me and says you can't buy in and around Indy, absolutely love Greenfield. I love Cicero, Arcadia, just the same way for the same reasons. It's far enough away to be forgotten about. Lebanon, I live in Eagle Creek, so for me this is another 20-minute drive away from my house. Right. Lebanon, 20 minutes away, county seat of Boone County. So not going anywhere. You can buy a nice house there for $100,000.
Wow. Okay, well, that's helpful. So you guys you guys still own all those rentals, or have you dispersed? Or have you?
No, that's a great question. Dave Ramsey got the best of me at one point. I guess I should back up. I didn't know T&H at the time, so I was managing all these myself. And granted, a lot of them were not T&H quality, let's put it that way. This was back in 2015 when things in Warren were still leasing for $600, $700. So we sold the vast majority of those. I think we were up to like 80 at one point. So we looked at each other and said, this ain't worth it. It's not. This occupies a lot of brain space. It's just a massive headache to go and plunge toilets during a lunch break. I was working in commercial property tax, doing hotels and industrial buildings, and Clay was servicing commercial debt for these big power centers up in all across the northern part of the country. So we were working a lot, traveling a lot, and I said, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to fix a doorbell at 2 a.m. or whatever the hell else it is. So we decided that in lieu of having all these different rentals, we were just going to sell 3/4 of them because we had them all levered at 75% loan to value roughly. So let's just sell 60 of these things and have 20 that are paid off free and clear. So we took the proceeds from those, paid them off, had a big tax hit, didn't care. So we have I think we're up to 20 or 25 units now. I haven't really grown our portfolio much when we started to get super serious about wholesaling. And so we're down to 20, 25 units now, and no debt.
Gotcha. That's interesting. I mean, I wonder, I'll just put food for thought here. I wonder what you'll think about that in 20 years. If you're like, damn, we should have kept those, but time will tell. Everyone does it differently. But so you've done a lot of deals, obviously. Can you give me some of your wackiest deals you've done? Like you kind of still shake your head at, or you're at a bar telling a buddy, like, you'll never believe what happened with this deal. I think we've all got them, but what are yours?
I can go on and on. The ones I personally have been involved with, I'm happy to share, but I don't want to do it injustice
No,
of talking
absolutely.
about.
Right.
Jairus had to pull a gun on somebody one time. That wasn't fun. We had a guy try and drive through the house because he realized we sold it to just a handful of stupid things. But one that I was really involved with that was really just close to my heart. It's why I do what I do. It's fun, and I'm thrilled I got a chance to be in this woman's life because it kind of encompasses the bright side of what wholesale real estate is. It's really easy to get a bad rap doing what I do. It's really easy to get a bad rap doing what a pawn shop does. That's what we are. So we had a woman, our old office building was on 46th Street and Shadeland Avenue. So not an awesome part of town. But when you're 24 and someone seller finances you a building for no money down, you don't care where it is. So that's what we did when we started our group. And so this is 2017, right before I got married, 2017. And we have these big fluorescent signs on our building. I mean, our building was huge. It's a big ranch that we converted into an office. We buy houses cash. You cannot miss it. It's absolutely impossible to miss. And someone walks upstairs and knocks on our door and says, "Hey, do you guys buy houses?" And I'll never forget, she was so serious when she said it too. "Do you guys buy houses?" Yeah, we buy houses.
Yeah.
And she turns out to be the sweetest woman of all time. And she said, "Hey, look, I got a weird situation here." And I didn't believe any of it at first. I don't have a cell phone. I don't have any cash. I don't have a job. I don't have a car. I have nothing. I'm in an abusive relationship. My boyfriend, husband, is in prison, and he's getting out in a couple days. He's been sending me all types of messages via mail about what's going to happen when he gets out. It's a really, really tough situation. She's showing me these letters, and I was kind of weirded out by it. She said, "I don't have anything to my name shy of these properties that my parents left to me." No, this property when my parents left me when they passed away. So, and it was right down the way. She walked from her house to our office on 46th and Elmhurst, I think was the address. Anyway, she said, "Look, I need to sell this house. I need to get the hell out of Dodge. Can you help out?" Of course, come on in, take a seat in my office. We're good at this. Thinking she was totally full of crap, and comes to find out she wasn't at all. So we had our friends at the title group run a really quick title search. I said, "Look, I can get you $15,000. Let's rock and roll. Let's get this thing done." She said, "That's good and fine, but I don't have a bank account. Like, when then what? I'm going to get like physical money. I don't have a bank account. I got nothing." So we said, "Okay, let's stop everything we're doing. Let's go open up a bank account for this woman. Let's get her an ID. Let's open up a bank account. Let's do all these things. Let's get her a burner phone." And I even threw in a kind of a cherry on top. I said, "Look, at the time I was driving a 1998 Acura TL with almost 300,000 miles on it. Air conditioning didn't work. Windows didn't work. That was a fun drive to the office every morning in the middle of summer. But Laura's her name. And she was just bawling her eyes out when we told her what we could do for her. We'll get you a phone. We'll put you up in a hotel for a week after we close. We'll give you the keys to this car right now and let you get the hell out of Dodge." And she was just absolutely elated. She had her little boy with her. It gives me goosebumps telling the story. But so we went down to Monument on 19th in Alabama or Delaware, whatever it was when they were still there. Signed the paperwork, and there's still a video floating around the interweb somewhere of this woman getting in my car that morning. I didn't talk to my now wife that I was getting rid of the car, but came home with no car and a house that we bought.
Wow.
So last I heard, she called from that burner phone that I saved in my number, or saved her number on my phone. And she said, "Hey, I'm in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. My aunt lives out here. I just want to let you know I'm safe, and I couldn't have done it without you."
Wow.
And that was such a fucking cool story. Pardon my language, but that's why I do what I do. It's so much fun to see people go from 0 to 1. And you hear realtors or whoever else talk about equity thieves and wholesalers are individually regulated and whatever else. There's some truth to it. But that was a perfect example of why I do what I do.
Yeah, those are good stories. I mean, people look at success a lot of different ways, and yeah, you may have made a little money on that deal, but the memory you have is worth a lot more, and that's good stuff. So thanks for sharing that. You mentioned a couple of names here, the Rich Dad Poor Dad guy. You mentioned Dave Ramsey, but if you guys have built your business and you're learning, and you went to school, obviously, Xavier, but who do you guys learn from? Like, what books do you have a staple of books that say this is almost kind of like my business Bible, and this is a guy or a woman that I listen to regularly and learn from? And who do you guys, I'm always interested, who do you learn from?
Well, we've read two books as a leadership team. So Clay and myself, we're not even on the leadership team, but we have someone that kind of runs our day to day, and we have four leaders in our group that acquisitions, dispositions, marketing, and then what we call business operations. So as a group, the seven of us have read Profit First. I forget the name of that guy that freaking wrote that thing. My God, that was forever ago. And obviously, we read Traction, which we run our EOS system, which is this is for people watching this. What the hell is he talking about? Fancy business owner gobbledygook, but I highly encourage it because again, a business is not being a realtor. A business is not being an attorney. A business is having things or assets that work for you without opening your eyes at night, right? So these two books really pointed me in that direction. With being a realtor is not an entrepreneur. Being a attorney is not an entrepreneur. Being an entrepreneur is closing your eyes, waking up, and things happening behind your back to make you money. So these two books pointed me in that direction, whether it's real estate you're buying, or whether it's a ATM you're buying, or whether it's something different, a vending machine you're buying, to help me kind of get started on painting the picture and getting some traction, pun intended, on getting ready to rock and roll with those assets.
Right.
So Traction was big for us. That was a couple of years ago. And then Profit First, we read Still a Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Savant. That's really what kicked it off for me. And you can't see it. It's actually over in our tech closet now. It used to be back here. We have a big box of books that anytime an investor comes in our office and visits, we're like, look, if you're not read Rich Dad, Poor Dad here, now you can. So next time you're on 52nd Street visiting Jeremy or myself, swing by. We got a copy of a book for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that, I think you're totally right about, there's not a lot of great real estate books necessarily. This is how you build a real estate business. I mean, I don't even know if I'd want to read that, but books like Traction and that you mentioned, we run EOS as well. It's interesting the number of businesses that run it. There's so many people that I know that own businesses that run it, and it's good stuff. I mean, we really benefited from it. Our leadership team is, we've all read it, and we do our level 10s every week, and we try to follow the framework because you get some return on that. There's no doubt about it. So. Okay. Well, Evan, let's move over to this conference that you two have started. Is this going to be your third or fourth? What number are we? So I guess generally tell me about the Out-of-State Investor Symposium and why you started that and what it's about, and then how people can come this year if they want.
Absolutely. And before I do, I have to go back to your previous point, because I like, my biggest fear is talking above folks, whatever, when it comes to this stuff. So symposium's a big word. EOS is a big acronym. EOS is nothing short of finding small things you can do to make a big change. Mm-hmm. So we have, just for a quick example here for folks listening that are even remotely interested in this, every one of our folks has four things that they are responsible for doing every single day, down to how many times they pick up the phone, down to how many emails they send, down to how many texts they send, whatever, right? Small things to attribute big wins. So if you're an investor, if you're looking at your portfolio, something like that, how many realtors did you talk to today? How many offers did you make? How many emails did you send? How many coffees did you set up? Whatever, things like that, that all are super small things that will lead to big goals at the end of it. That's what led to the symposium, to kind of tie these two together. The symposium is a big word, a lot of syllables. It's a conference. We have a lot, just by nature of what we did getting started. So when Clay and I started Midwest Cash Offer, we found a lot of these opportunities. We needed to raise a lot of capital to essentially start the BRRRR method. We didn't know what the BRRRR method was when we first got started. Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. For those of you who are bigger pocket snobs. It wasn't the BRRRR method when we started. It was the buy and then maybe find a bank and then maybe get it refinanced and have it sitting on your balance sheet at some point method. So we found a lot of out-of-state people to help raise this capital. So we found all these houses, found a lot of out-of-state people on bigger pockets. Some of these events that were getting thrown, these whimsy twinsy Mickey Mouse meetups, found a lot of out-of-state people and realized, wow, there's a pretty big demand that just goes untapped for out-of-state people. People, live in Sacramento that got on $250,000 and don't know where to deploy it in the hillbilly Midwest. Pick me, come visit my office. So we had a handful of folks every month. I mean, we're talking, this is back years ago. Now it's almost every day. We've got folks visiting our office, coming in from Las Vegas, coming in from Seattle, coming in from Maui, coming from Miami, coming from Nashville. We're seeing a lot of people from Nashville and Denver now, Austin, these really local markets, or these tertiary sexy markets, if you will, coming to Indy and start talking about buying real estate. And we kind of looked at each other at one point. This is the most inefficient thing of all time. Like, I was burning half days almost every day. Not that it was a bad thing, but taking people to lunch and showing up neighborhoods and doing all this other stuff. And it's like, we just need to have one massive event to bring everyone into the same room and have them, obviously learn about Indy and meet our vendors and all this other stuff. But also, selfishly, it serves as a really neat opportunity for us to get up and talk on stage, but also a chance for us to be audited. For those of you in the room who've done business with us, like, talk shit about me. If there's a reason to say it's not worth a chance to work with these guys, then now's a great opportunity to ruin me. So it's a self-audit. It's a homecoming, if you will. It's a chance to learn about vendors, chance to understand the market, chance to see things in person, meet people in person, you name it. All the things that folks that live 1,000 miles away would never have the opportunity to otherwise do. So this is our 4th year. Even COVID couldn't stop us. We hosted an event, one of our bigger events in 2020. So 2019 was year 1, 2020 last year, and now this year. We're expecting a roughly the same size crowd. Again, we don't want to make it some Terry, God only knows his name, Sean Terry type thing, pounding his chest or whatever, his microphone. But 100, 200 people. We're going to be in a big conference room in downtown Indianapolis, have some really smart people go up there and talk about things that I don't know at all. And happy to be able to start your real estate journey there, whether you're a brand new, I've never bought a property before, or we have a handful of folks here who will be in town who are multimillionaires building self-storage that are coming to learn just the same way. So neat folks, awesome time. And if you just want to come and have a beer and exist in Indy, I think you'll really enjoy the town.
Yeah. We'll put a link. You guys have a registration still. Are you still accepting people for this year? Or are you?
Yeah, we're accepting all the way up through October 15. So you still got a chance to put your name in the hat for sure.
Okay. And I'm assuming they could just Google Out-of-State Investor Symposium and find out. We'll put a link in our show notes here to have people register. But, we're going to be a part of it this year. We're excited about it. It's an interesting, you say you have clients coming all the time. We almost never have clients come here. I mean, it's almost like, hey, I bought something and I need you to do something with it, manage it, lease it. And I don't want to be bothered with it. So it's interesting. We've not met 95% of our clients, like face to face. Had a lot of conversations with them, obviously, but we're excited about that because we're going to try to find out who's going to be here from our client list and, meet them. And I know there's some people are going to be here, and I'm excited because I just, we know the names, we know their emails, but we just don't know their faces and don't know their backstory necessarily. In some cases we do, but it's just nice to have those conversations, in an informal setting like that. So we're excited.
And I'm glad you are, first and foremost, and thanks for hanging out. I think it'll be a really neat thing. And frankly, I'd be shocked if our client list wasn't severely overlapped to the point where we'll laugh about it after it's all done. But I just had this conversation last year with a gentleman named Jared Shore, who similarly, knows the emails and he's learns about these people over the phone or whatever else. But the amount of business that he's been able to kind of cultivate simply just from knowing these people and meeting them face to face. We went golfing the other day, and he was just dumbfounded by how many he was able to go from A to Z from some of these folks just by hanging out and meeting with them. So that was our conjecture maybe a couple of years ago is, look, let's just be the out-of-state guys, right? We got nothing to sell, at least not right away, but we can do a lot of like indirect selling just by being a resource and being the go-to guy on a handful of this stuff. And it's worked like a charm. Mm-hmm. So now we're trusted. Now we know. Now we've got that kind of that goodwill behind our name, to where the Manships are going to do it the right way and treat me right as it happens. And I think some of our sponsors have started to see the same thing. So this isn't talking with Jeremy or talking with Jared, but investors just the same way. I mean, like, if I got nothing to buy from you, but I promise when I do, I'm going to be the guy. I'm going to treat you the right way. So again, it all starts from traction. It all starts from how many times you pick up the phone. And if we've done one thing right in our entire existence here in our 9 years or 8 years, whatever it's been of doing this, being just hey, look, I got nothing to sell you, but if you want to come hang out and talk about property tax, we're here on 52nd Street. That's gone a long way for us. Yeah,
for sure. So you've got an email list. I just want to touch on this briefly. And you send out a lot of emails, and I get them every day, maybe a couple a day, and you do a good job. I mean, there's a lot of information, pictures, pro formas, all that good stuff. But you got to tell me about the creepy dude at the bottom the gift that you guys got. And so I don't know if that's marketing genius or what, but I mean, we're talking about it. So I guess it's marketing genius. So who is, his face is familiar. I guess I haven't done the legwork to find out who he is, but who is that guy? And I'm assuming that was very intentional because you keep him on there.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about how detailed I should go, because this is going to be. It's funny for me because we were having a time with it when it happened. But so his name's Wally. We call him Wow Wally, and to this day, the license plate on the back of my truck is WOOOOW. So for those of you listening at home, give Wow Wally a Google and he'll pop right up. Apparently he's a Dutch singer, no longer with us, but just a funny dude. That was his thing. It was wow, and he'd wink, and it was like this big thing or whatever. Kind of like Elvis was, hey baby. Hey.
Right.
That was his thing. It was wow and then winking. Anyway, so we had a deal that we had found, and we knew it was a hot deal. It was 2015 or 2016. It was 318 Orange. I remember the address in Bates Hendricks, and we said, I just want some way to get someone's attention. I mean, how many? Especially, it was back in 2016. I said this, much less now. My God, but how many flyers come through some of these people's inboxes where they see this stuff, they go through it, and they don't really care. Let's put something on there to really nab some attention. And so we threw Wally on there just for fun, just to see if people would stop what they're doing and say, "What the hell? Like, is this a joke?" And we got more emails or replies back about that guy than we did about the deal.
The property.
I mean, dozens and dozens and dozens of people saying, "What the hell? Did you know this happened? Did you screw up? Whatever." And realize, wow, we're onto something. So ironically, I have a twin brother. We do everything the same, but we thrive on being unique in our approach. And that was just another kind of tribute to that. So we've just left him in there. We've had some copycats now with some folks in the industry that just throw some stuff on there just to let people slow down, but it works. And what we found is people don't want to be bored with freaking buy this deal, click here to get this address. No, like, we're people, we're not robots.
Right.
Like let's and even if it is something as small as just a joke, or let's go get a beer at lunch, like, we're normal freaking people. That's who I am. So that's who our group is, like to be different. And that's really where we got started on that whole Wow Wally thing. But he's in every one of our deals, and he will be for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. I think if you're not part of their email list, you should sign up just to see Wow Wally. It's great. I mean, I figured I wasn't the only one that caught on to that. So I guess it was marketing genius after all. So
well, if it tells you anything, my father-in-law, who I think he still thinks I'm a realtor or something, I don't know if he fully understands what I do, but I remember sending that, or I guess my girlfriend's father at the time, now my father-in-law, he sends me an email right after that. He's like, "What are you doing?" And that was all it said. And I'm like, well, there's nothing that makes me feel better than my girlfriend's father sending me that message. I should print it out and put it on my wall. What are you doing? But it worked. So here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a rumor out there I've heard about you, or maybe both of you, that you're not fans of realtors. So I'm a realtor. I'm assuming you guys are licensed in some capacity, but tell me what is and maybe it's overblown, but tell me, I just want to explore that a minute. What's your issue with realtors?
I guess I should let's clarify a couple things before. I have no beef with realtors at all. I like to give them crap because it's fun. Same reason wholesalers get crap. If you can't dish it, you can't take it. So wholesalers deserve it. A lot of realtors deserve it. We are licensed. I'm licensed personally in 4 states: Indy, Kentucky, Ohio, Tennessee, and then we're managing brokers in Indiana and Kentucky.
Okay.
So again, takes one to know one. So this isn't coming from a place of not knowing what I'm talking about. But I brokered my own deals. I've been involved. I've been a realtor forever. The crux of why people think this, and they have a right to, kind of a loudmouth about it, but it's not hard to be a wholesaler. It's not hard to be a realtor. It's extremely hard to be very good at either one of those two things. So in my opinion, a lot of folks woke up on third base, myself included in some capacity, with the market cycle. I quit my substitute teaching job and now I'm a realtor and I'm making $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year, whatever. Great. Like that's not impressive to me. You're not good for you. But I feel that the way, in my opinion, this is all just unbridled me venting now. Technology has come far enough to where traditional realtors are no longer necessary. We have enough technology to where someone should be able to raise their hand and say, "I'd like to make an offer on this house," and someone should be able to accept it. That's what we do. Okay. Where I think realtors get lost is thinking that they're necessary. And the second you think you're necessary or demand that you're necessary, you are no longer necessary. So that's where my thought process comes down to is, frankly, a lot of realtors day to day, with coaching someone through how to make an offer, or the tips and tricks how to get your offer accepted, or here's how to ask for someone for seller concession points and whatever else. That's a course. And frankly, it's a multi-million-dollar opportunity. I would highly encourage someone to make a course on how to coach a buyer through how to do those things and how to that disrupt the industry overnight. But the MLS, I will concede, we need the MLS. But
Right.
for the first person to start a brokerage, that flat fee will list it on the MLS and you do all the groundwork. And that course is a part of how to accept an offer, how to negotiate, how to make sure it's worthwhile, all those things. A traditional realtor is not necessary. Paying 6% is not necessary. So I think that we're headed for a disruption in that department. And that's where it kind of gets, well, the Manships hate realtors. Well, no, they don't. I think we just see it a different way, where I think we're headed toward potential disruption with the way that things have been. The status quo is the status quo, but never for long.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's interesting points there. I think, NAR has an incredible lobbying ability. They're a strong organization. That's the National Association of Realtors. And I think it'll be hard to completely displace them. But you're right. I mean, becoming a realtor is pretty simple. There's not a lot to it. But there are some really good ones. I think I still find value in them. I think there's some realtors that have the ability to calm their clients because it can become very emotional. And I think they need that third party sounding board a lot as a more of an advisory role. But, look, let's face it, a lot of people can do their own deals. A lot of people do their own deals. So we'll see. I got a lot of good friends that are realtors, and I generally like realtors, but had a lot of frustration with realtors too that don't do their job well. And there are a lot of those. It's like anything else, right? I mean, there's top 1% do really well. They make a ton of money, but there's a whole lot of people that don't do well and end up exiting the system. So
it is totally. And I think, it's funny. This is not the first time I've had this conversation, obviously. And I'm meeting someone at noon to have a friendly discussion at Upland. Feel free to come over to 49th in college here to partake. But same story. Well, I've been a realtor for years. I'd love to learn your take on it because I can't see it. And this stemmed from a conversation about NAR, right? And that they're the second biggest lobbying group in the country, shy of the National Rifle Association. Like, they're not going anywhere. Realtors are not going anywhere. A disruption will happen, in my opinion. That's the whole point of it all. So I'm a loudmouth, say things intentionally to get people all good and pissed off because it's fun. But there are good realtors, there are a lot of bad realtors. Same with any profession. So As long as me and mine are in that top 1%, I'm a happy guy.
Right. All right. So you say you have conversations every day with people, and I'm sure a lot of those people are very experienced and don't necessarily need to know, for you to give them advice. You might need to give them knowledge about where to invest and what title company to use, or, local or anything like that. But if you were, had to start things over again today, would you do things differently? What advice would you give the new real estate agent out there, or not, sorry, real estate agent, the new real estate investor out there,
Gotcha.
That, is just starting out, just like, I'm not sure what to do with this. I've read these books. I'm part of Bigger Pockets. I've done, but brass tacks it for me. Like, what would you say? This is what you really should focus on. This is the advice that you give those new people that come into your office.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. And my advice is never going to be that Gary Vee or Grant Cardone advice. Like, well, just be grateful. That's not practical. It's not tangible advice. So my advice is bifurcated with local people. If you're looking to get started in real estate investing, house hack, buy a duplex, live on one side, lease out the other. That's a no-brainer. I mean, there are two ways to get rich: either make a lot of income or have no expenses. There are only so much you can do to combat expenses in your life. You can't live for free. That's outrageous. But you can mitigate it to a huge degree by house hacking, and then work on making a bunch of money on your income side. It's unlimited. So if you're local, if you're looking to get started in real estate investing, I don't care if you have a family or not, sacrifice for a year or two, move into a duplex, live in one side, lease out the other one, mitigate your housing costs to a huge degree. That's number one. Number two, if you are out of state or not capable of house hacking in the market that you're looking to buy in, which would really need a strong argument, in my opinion, why it doesn't work, you got to start someplace. You got to start with some level of capital. So either get that capital through buying really well in an equity type deal, or do a flip on your first deal. There are a lot of folks that get started thinking they're going to get into it and buy a rental and get rich off a rental. And it's extremely difficult to have any level of wealth off $200 a month. Even if everything goes perfect for 10 years, I mean, that's what, 20 grand. So it's not that much money. So I tell everyone that you need to find a way to get money in your pocket quickly, get that first taste, if you will, hit 00 on roulette, And I'm not saying get lucky, but have that high of like, holy crap, there's something to this. So we have a lot of folks from out of state who co-wholesale with us. They'll send out some letters, they'll send out this and the other thing. They'll try and cold call and find a deal, bring it to us because no one has a bigger resource for buyers than we do. Our buyers win, they win, we win. It's a grand slam for them, and they get a first taste on how the whole system works. So whether it's a flip or a co-wholesale or something like that, that goes a long way. But if you're local and you don't house hack, I get nothing for you.
Yeah. I mean, living in the other side of a duplex is no different than living in a townhome, right? I mean, because you have people beside you. It's the same thing. It's just that you own it and control it.
It's identical to that. Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to end it here with this. I got 3 questions for you, just for people that are listening to this. They may be coming to the symposium, that visit Indy once in a while, or maybe people are just looking to learn a little more about our city. What is your favorite restaurant to eat at in Indy? You give me more than one, but what's your go-to with your wife, date night? Where do you like to go?
So our date night spot is Rick's Boatyard and Cafe. I'm in Eagle Creek, so it's easy for me. It's right on the water, and people laugh when they hear this. Oh, it's on the water in Indy. Well, shockingly, there's a body of water, a couple in Indy, but Rick's is a neat spot. That's where we like to go. There's a place in Broad Ripple called Flatwater, super intimate place that we like to go to. I'll give you go to Harry and Izzy's, go to St. Elmo's. It's overrated in my opinion. It's a steak. It's not. So if you go there, great. It'd be not my jam. Right. So if you're looking for something maybe a little more practical, a little bit more, go and see a neighborhood, something a little bit different. You'll love Rick's. You love Wolfie's on Geist. Yeah. You'll love Flatwater and Broad Ripple. So you can park your car, get dropped off in Broad Ripple in an Uber, and walk to a dozen different places that are neat and unique to Indy. So maybe that's my recommendation. Head up to Broad Ripple right by our office and tell the cabbie to kick you out and walk someplace. That's cool.
Right. Favorite bar? I think I might know this. I think I might disclose it. What's your favorite place to go and get a drink or just hang out?
Well, I'm a beer snob, so for me, it's really easy. We're at Upland 3 or 4 times a week, so Upland's my go-to, but it's right next to my office. It's not really my favorite. There are a million different places near downtown that are cool. There's a place called Spoken Steel downtown, which if you're going to the symposium, it's 2 blocks away. Really, really cool place. Place where we're actually having our cocktail reception on Friday. It's kind of like our arrival bit for all the investors. Is at a place called Tavern on South. Not as high end as some of those other places, but it's super, super cool. It's right next to Lucas Oil Stadium, so love going there. Then Harry and Izzy's is obviously one of the best little bars ever. It's huge, big U shape, and they get every bourbon you can possibly imagine. So if you like to go and grab a drink someplace, there's no shortage of it in and around where we're going to be for the symposium, and then anywhere on Mass Ave, you'll have a million different places. If you're in Broad Ripple or catch yourself at Jeremy REI's office, we'll take you to Upland any whole time.
St. Elmo's, it's an iconic place. I go there like once a year. I like going around the holidays. It's just kind of a fun place with the Christmas lights up and stuff.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah. If you like wine, it is the deepest wine list in the city. I think by far they get the best allocation from the distributors, and it's a crazy, crazy wine list. But anyway, and then last question, you live on the West Side, but if you could live anywhere in the city and price was not a concern, where would it be?
Meridian Kessler, and it's not close. That's the only other place that we looked. We were shopping around. For those of you not familiar with Meridian Kessler, think 49th Street and Meridian. Meridian Street is the largest north-south parallel that we have in the city, and I don't know where it even ends up, northern Michigan someplace, and goes all the way down south to something else. But Meridian Street's huge. It goes right through the circle downtown. But if you go north 5 miles, you are on this really historic, cool row of huge old houses. I guess they're not Victorian, but they're huge, 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 amazing architecture, massive in space, are immaculately well taken care of. And some of the city's hoity-toity folks, the governor's mansion's there, some real estate developers are there, business owners, doctors, attorneys, you name it. So that's a really cool place to exist. It's not too far from our office. We're just on the hillbilly outskirts of it, I guess, over here. But Meridian Kessler is a tremendous opportunity for homeowners here in Indy, and not a place where one would traditionally invest.
All right. Our office is technically in Meridian Kessler because we are on the west side of the Monon. And
that's right. Yeah. So you guys qualify and I don't, man. See?
Yeah. We're part of the Meridian Kessler Neighborhood Association. And I will tell you, that is as a business owner surrounded by residential, It wasn't fun going through those.
That's funny. But well, congratulations, Jeremy. There you go.
Yeah. It's a great neighborhood. It's built in the 20s. It's one of those, it was the suburbs of downtown at one point, where a lot of rich people, they kind of abandoned kind of where I live now in Heron Morton, they all abandoned that back in, in the 20s, because the story was pollution, was cars were, were a lot of environmental regulations back there. So the city became a very dirty, nasty place to live, and people just moved to the suburbs. And that's where a lot of money in the teens and 20s came up to Meridian Kessler and built these gorgeous homes. And it's a gorgeous place. If you think of a Norman Rockwell painting at, 52nd in New Jersey, or, those are just beautiful streets through there. And it's a great place. We considered it too. We did. We love it. I could walk to work if I wanted to, but we chose a different spot for some different reasons. But you can't go wrong with Meridian Kessler. It's a beautiful place to live.
I told my wife that if we lived in Meridian Kessler, there would quite literally, she complains right now that there's no separation between work and home, and that's done intentionally. I'm sure you get a little bit of the same yap, but
yeah,
we set it up to where if there's no separation between work and home, that's a true definition of one's love for just waking up in the morning. What I do for fun and what I do for money is the same. That's not to say I've constantly got my phone on me, but that's what we agreed to. And she's like, well, if we lived in Meridian Kessler, you could walk to work, and then we're really, really flirting with you just constantly wearing that real estate cap instead of the dad cap, husband cap. So we're going to go ahead and look in this Eagle Creek place, which is about a half hour away from here. So I was violently shoved into the west side. We love it, but obviously Meridian Kessler, if you're looking to live there, rock on. If you're looking to invest there, best of luck.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, Evan, thanks for joining me today. It's been great chatting with you. If anyone wants to connect with you guys, what's the best way to do that?
Easy as pie, man. If you're local, first off, 52nd Street and Evanston Avenue. Come hang out any old time. We got a million different resources we can show you here in the office. If you're not here, if you're not local, hop on our website, mainstaypropertygroup.com. You can schedule a call with me or any of our staff to learn more about kind of what we do and how we can help. That has details on the symposium on it as well as in the myriad of different projects we've done, people we've helped, so on and so forth. So if you want to learn more about me or a way to chat, mainstaypropertygroup.com is the best way to do it.
Great. Well, thanks again. We really appreciate the conversation, getting to know you a little better, and look forward to seeing you down at the symposium. That's in November, right? First week in November, is that right?
That's right. Thanks for the shout out. November 4th through November 6th. That's Friday through Sunday. We're going to have a little tent party out in front of our office on that Friday, kind of welcoming everybody. And then we have cocktail reception that Friday. And then we'll kind of do the day event Saturday, day event Sunday, and let everybody go home after that. So it's a really neat weekend. And it's not one of those boring, here's a pencil, here's a pad, take notes convention. More of a homecoming and a chance to learn along some really smart people at the same time. So November 4th to November 6th. See you there, Jeremy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it. We hope everyone has picked up some information that'll help them in their real estate investing. We'll be back next month with another podcast. In the meantime, we encourage you to share this podcast with your investing friends, leave us a review, and don't hesitate to reach out to us with any questions. Until next time, thanks so much for listening, and please stay invested in your investment.